We have with us today the wonderful Vance Meeks and the wonderful Eric Johnson. I am your host, your intrepid host, and I can say that because I looked up the word intrepid today. Your intrepid host, Gladys Tyler. You can find me on Twitter at Gladys L. Tyler. And this is the podcast is such that we will ask 4 to 5 questions. They will debate, discuss the questions, and then after they can have a 5, 10, 15-minute rant on anything they want. But before we start, let's get to know the guests a little better. Vance, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
I am, as she mentioned, Vance Meek, and that is easy for you guys. If you want to look me up on Twitter, it is at Vance Meek, so not a problem with that. I have a podcast that will be back on the air hopefully soon. It'll be me and my brother. That'll be the NFL Next podcast. We have some pretty good times there. We're going to do some arguing, so if you like that kind of thing, definitely tune in. Bengals fan, of course, as you can tell. Long-suffering Bengals fan at that, and that's mostly it.
Nice. Well, you have Joe Burrow now. And Eric, you, my friend.
What is going on, everybody? So I'm Eric Johnson, as you can see the little thing. That's where you can follow me on Twitter. I think I got my finger on it. Right there it is. At Fantasy Barbecue. I do a couple different podcasts. We're not like professional or anything. We're very, very, what's the other word? Like amateur. EJC NFL pod I do with my 2 best friends in life. And we just talk about random stuff, mostly not really fantasy football oriented, but mostly just football oriented. We're trying to fix teams, cap situations, and yeah. And then I also do one called the Bad Man's Pod. It just debuted last week, I want to say. I know, just bringing on guests, much like Gladys is doing here, and interviewing folks, just talking some fantasy football mostly.
Sweet. So we have 2 podcasts, experienced podcast people who are going to help me out today a lot. And we're going to start. So this session is going to be mostly about the draft, but we're going to start with the combine. So this year there's no combine, right? Which breaks my heart. I'm not going to lie.
Yes.
But who do you guys think it's going to hurt the most that there's no combine? It can be like a position group or it can be an individual player. But who do you think is going to be hurt the most by not having a combine?
I actually posted probably a month ago that this may actually help some people. Of course, you've seen famous cases like DK Metcalf have one bad drill and suddenly he's undraftable and just sinks in the draft. So I think that teams that put too much stock in 40 times and things like that, it probably won't affect them much. I would assume that small school guys that don't get the exposure, have the big pro days, Alabama and places like that, will probably be the most affected. They won't have probably big contingents of teams there to watch them work out.
What do you say, Eric?
Yeah, I agreed. He stole my small school thing there real quick, but no. But it's true though. You look at 2 safeties last year, like Kyle Duggar and Jeremy Chin. They were both small school guys. They came in and blew the combine up. 87th percentile athletes in burst score, speed score, yada yada, all that stuff. And they saw their draft stock improve tremendously. I think they were both 2nd-round picks. So the small school guys, for sure. And this is negatively affect, right? Because I was going to say, we'll talk about the positively affect one. But I think, honestly, some of the smaller school offensive linemen as well are going to be – it seems like a very deep class this year. So they're not going to be able to get in there and kind of mix it up with some of the other guys at the combine and really – because you can't, when you see someone next to someone else who's an actual NFL pro, you're like, okay, this dude belongs type thing. So I think it'll hurt some of the smaller school guys, like Vance had said.
It hurts me because I don't get to see Jalen Waddle run the 40.
That hurts America, my friend. We're all sad about that.
Who do you think it helps the most then? Who do you think is going to be benefited by it?
I have one player. I just want to say it's Devante Smith. He's going to weigh in at least 205. I promise. He's going to be like, Devante Smith, 205, not 165. No. I just think it helps players that maybe weren't going to test super great or projected not to test super great. So we all know kind of those how those pro days go, right? Oh, he got a 6 second freaking 3 cone. Like, come on, man. Really? Did he now? It's not a standardized way of testing at pro days. Everything is different and it's variety. So I think it's All right.
Yeah, turnabout is fair play because that's basically what I had noted down is that the testing numbers, the guys that may not necessarily test well at the combine, pro day numbers are always a tenth of a second faster in the 40. Their jumps are 2 inches higher than they would at Indy. So the people that benefit are the ones that their numbers will look a little better than they may have in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I actually agree. Although I was going to go position because I thought that the defensive tackle position was so weak that they would need the combine to move up into the draft, a few of them. Hi, Dan. Dan from the Upside Podcast. Nice to see you. He said small school prospects also for who would hurt the most. But so the pro days, because of Twitter, because of the proliferation of social media, like I heard that just about every team was at Trevor Lawrence's pro day, which is to be expected. But Urban Meyer was the only one that was allowed on the field or something really crazy like that. Do you think that teams are going to go to the pro days now, or do you think they're just going to wait to see the miraculous things? Like I just saw, Aaron and I were just talking, I just saw Rondell Moore on his Purdue pro day. Like he had a 42-inch vertical. That's like ridiculous for a 5'9" kid. So, but it's on Twitter, so everyone can see it now. So is that better for the guys that would test poorly at the combine? Because, we don't know how many times he did that vertical before he got the 42 inches. We just know that we just saw the 42-inch vertical. Do you know what I mean?
No, if nothing else, that does give them some extra time to train as well. The combine would be coming up this next week, whereas pro days, many of them won't be until into March, so they'll have extra time to work out. Maybe those jump times or jump numbers improve an inch, half an inch. Every little bit helps. So, a little extra can't hurt.
The Bengals, you guys are looking for, you hope that you guys are looking for offensive line, yeah?
Hopefully, yes.
I didn't mean that. I didn't mean the caddy. I just meant that you need an offensive line. I'm sorry. After I heard it, it came out a little more caddy than I expected it to come out. So let's talk about Joe Burrow's injury. All right. So he was having a really great year. Do you expect him to be back in 2021? What is the contingency plan there?
I think he expects him to be back by week one. All indications are he's ahead of schedule. He's posting pictures, videos, clips, talking about it on Twitter. He seems to be progressing as well as you can possibly progress. So I kind of think that he may very well be back. Contingency plan, it's hard to predict with the Bengals. Ryan Finley played last year when he was out for the most, for at least a couple games, and actually won a game as the starter. They also brought back Brandon Allen, who they, in all appearances, like a lot, and he played pretty well also. So I don't know that they'll add anybody. I see a lot of Cam Newton rumors floating around, and I believe PFF predicted Cam Newton would sign with the Bengals, but I don't know that I expect them to really go add anybody outside of what they got. I think he'll be back early enough in their minds that they don't need to spend money on a quarterback.
Wow, that's breaking news because I hadn't heard that. Cam Newton at the Bengals, that would be interesting. Maybe. What do you think?
For sure.
Eric, what do you think about Joe Burrow and his return?
So, Dr. David Chow, Pro Football Doc on Twitter, he's been very, very accurate with kind of his predictions and things like that when he analyzes injuries and whatnot. He was the now San Diego Chargers team doc, not the guy that punctured the lung. He's gone. But anyways, so like I said, he's been very prolific and really good at what he does. He predicted Joe Burrow to be back and ready for week one, barring any unforeseen infections, injury, setbacks. So I expect Joe Burrow. I hope Joe Burrow is back. I love watching that kid play. Lord have mercy. And I have T. Higgins in one of my dynasty leagues, so I need him back.
Yeah. And let's go to your team, Eric. Dak Prescott. Do you expect him to be in a Cowboy uniform next year?
I do. I just want to say first that hurts my soul that anybody would say that it wasn't going to happen. Okay. No, I wrote a couple things down because I'm not as eloquent like off the fly as I should be now, but I've literally gone cross-eyed from trying to read these articles. about contract terms and what they can do to spread this stuff out and and what Dak wants. And I'm like, I don't understand any of this. However, at the end of the day, Dak Prescott is a franchise quarterback. I think that we can. If you looked at the first 5 games of the 2020 season, he was on pace to absolutely shatter Peyton Manning's single season passing yards record. It was 6,760 passing yards is what he was on pace for. That's pretty good. They have a ton, they have a ton of stuff. Whether he's on the franchise tag or they make a long term, or they actually, figure out a long term deal, which I hope they do. That's my hope. Either way, I would bet money he'll be back on Dallas next year. Think about the endorsement opportunities that are afforded to like the Dallas Cowboys quarterback, right? He sees what Tony Romo's doing now too, making a lot of money just talking. So it sets you up in a advantageous position outside of football as well.
Vance?
The anti-Dak crowd on Twitter that are supposedly Dallas fans are pretty shocking to me. I don't understand that from afar. I'm not a Cowboys fan, but I've never been able to grasp those people. That he's played as well as you could possibly ask somebody to play since he's been in Dallas, and I would be throwing money at him to keep him if it were me.
Yeah, but shouldn't he have thrown money at him last year before the injury to keep him?
Hindsight is 2020. But no, they should. They should have done it between the 2019 and 2020 instead of paying Zeke, who I love, but you don't need to pay a running back $90 million. I'm going to sound like one of the PFF guys in a second. Running backs don't matter. But no, instead of signing him for a long-term deal, we should have locked up the franchise quarterback. I know he didn't play a full 16 games last year, but in my opinion, those 5 games, that he proved that he is as good as should he get paid $45 million a year? Doubt it. He's not Patrick Mahomes.
Should anyone be paid $25 million a year?
That's a philosophical question or a conversation for a different podcast, I feel like. But I definitely, like he said, the anti-Dak crowd, it doesn't make sense to me at all. I'm like, are y'all watching the game? Did you see when we had Quincy Carter as our quarterback? Because that wasn't fun. I remember those days.
Yeah, I didn't understand the prioritization of Amari Cooper and Zeke over Dak at the time.
And Jalen Smith, who was a mediocre linebacker last year at best.
Right.
All right, we're going to sort of dance towards free agency for just a second because we're talking quarterbacks and there are some quarterbacks that are in free agency. What would be, Vance, your most surprising free agency move right now?
Bengals fans are locked in on Joe Thuney at guard, and they are not going to accept anybody else, I don't think, in free agency. But knowing the Bengals' history, I just can't see it. I don't see them spending big money on a guard. They don't value the interior line positions nearly as much as they do tackle. I could see them signing a tackle in free agency before they sign a expensive guard anyway. They may bring in some guys like they did last year, so Quentin Spains and the Xavier Suafilos and those kind of people, but I just can't see them throwing $15 million at Joe Thuney. Sorry, Bengals fans.
Eric, yours? Most surprising move in free agency?
So for Dallas, it's pretty. I'll take the low-hanging fruit. It's if they let Dak Prescott walk, to me that signals full-on rebuild. Like there's no, our defense is really young. We have some pretty young receivers. Our O-line is starting to get up there in age. But if Dak were to not sign, just refuse, basically if he was to get out of Dallas, that would trip me out big time. And then I would say another one is just Deshaun Watson. Wherever he goes, if he goes selfishly as a huge fantasy football person or fan, I should say, Carolina. Oh man, I'd love to see him go to Carolina with DJ Moore and daggone Robbie Anderson. Oh Lord,
Joe Brady,
Steelers.
No.
Oh, AFC North rivals right here. Okay.
How awesome would that be with the weapons that he has? He would, and I don't even see the Steelers coming up in any conversation with Deshaun Watson. Like I've heard Broncos, which is ridiculous to me.
Broncos seems to be the prevalent one now.
Yeah. they're kind of sitting, interestingly enough, pretty in the salary cap. But why would you go to Broncos if you go to Steelers? Why? I don't get that. I mean, selfishly, I don't get that.
$19 million over the cap right now, so they'd have to say deuces to Big Ben. And
let's talk about Big Ben for just a second. Okay. We're just going to throw that in there because so the wild card, the playoff game, where the first play was Pouncey hiking the ball over Big Ben. And then Big Ben just had he had a really astronomically bad game. I love the Steelers. I've never been a really big Ben fan, but I love the Steelers. But his play through the season wasn't all that great. Like I know the wide receivers were dropping passes and blah, 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 but whatever. So now he's saying that he will take a pay cut and stay. And the GM is saying, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I just saw that they restructured Cameron Hayward's contract. So they're a little bit more under. We're going the right way. Do you guys think Big Ben will be in a Steeler uniform next season?
I'm going to go ahead and say yes.
Is that the fan talking because you want him to be because he played so bad? Is that what that is?
Kind of, yes. And I hope he does not take a pay cut.
He gets paid that whole $41 million. Oh, this is turned into an anti-Steelers podcast. Is what this is now. Like, no. I really am. It's fun. No, I definitely think he's back next year, much to the chagrin of all the Steelers fans out there.
Yes.
I know he got hurt. Was it 2019? What, two and a half games into the season, something like that?
Every year.
Yeah, well, that's very true. But the last two seasons, he's seen his lowest ADOT or his yards per attempt. So his arm is going. I know he had that surgery or whatever. But yeah, I think with those weapons they have there, they could get a. I just don't know how. The problem is, and I discussed this on my other podcast, so I'll plug it real quick. But no, the problem is that defense is so good, it's going to keep you in quarterback kind of. I know this is overused, but quarterback purgatory, to where you're not picking in the top 10 because the defense is going to get you to at least 9-7, right? And then Big Ben is competent enough still with the weapons and the familiarity he has with that system to get you to 10-6, right? To at least get a wild card berth. So it's a rough situation for y'all. I wish I could say I felt sorry, but I don't know.
Well, thanks, both of you. So. If you have Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins are your backups, it's not really looking that great to get rid of Big Ben, unless Deshaun Watson swoops in, which is what I'm hoping it happens. But we'll see. Let's get back on track. I'm sorry. Okay, so the draft format last year, God, I don't know about you guys, but I loved the draft format last year. It was awesome. Like Vrabel's kids killed it in the first day. They were just awesome. Cliff Kingsbury tried way too hard, and Jerry Jones was on his 100-foot yacht. How awesome! So I'm assuming they're going with the same draft format since we're still in COVID purgatory. Who do you think is falling out? Who do you see potentially falling out of the first round?
So, sorry, go ahead, Vince.
No, yeah, it's all right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, Trevor Lawrence. No, just play. Definitely not Trevor Lawrence. Kadarius Toney, right? So I've seen him in quite a few. I looked at probably a dozen mocks today. I'd say at least half of them had him in the first round. And I think he falls out through no fault of his own, right? I just think that I've heard this wide receiver. We talked about the offensive line or offensive tackle class being deep. This wide receiver class is as deep, if not a little deeper than last year's, which was amazing. I could just see him falling out just via, I guess, group think that, all right, this class is deep enough. If we don't get, Smith, Waddle, or Chase, let's just wait to the second round. Let's get more, maybe a position of need more so. And it kind of pushes all those wide receivers. Rondale Moore, we were talking about, pushes all them down the board a little bit more. So he's mine. Just kind of throwing a dart at it, though. That was mine.
I think that the deeper positions is where you'll see some of that kind of happen. You mentioned wide receiver, offensive tackle has on my board. I have 6 or 7 first-round grades on offensive linemen. 1 or 2 of those are likely to drop out. You can throw a dart, as you said, and pick one that may fall. Offensive linemen usually end up falling every year. Kind of the amateur scout segment of Twitter has their favorites, and then you see a guy like Josh Jones last year drop to round 3 or 4. Like it was pretty far down. So somebody's going to fall. Maybe some of the edge guys. There are a lot of mid-round edge guys that are really talented. I don't know if there's a lot of round 1 guys. I have a few, but one of those could fall. It's probably, if I was guessing, it would be one of the deeper position guys that's just going to fall, especially offensive line.
It seems like there's no edge. Like the defensive line class this year is like garbage. It's like tackle and
outside of
edge
Christian Barmore, I don't really have anybody that I like. Ronnie Perkins a lot. I have him a little higher than many, but yeah, it's kind of a weird defensive line class.
So, Lance, who do you see sneaking into the first round?
I was looking at this, and I kind of noted a couple of guys that I think could, especially of the cornerback group, and a guy that on my board that I have round 1 that maybe not everybody does is Asante Samuel Jr. I know he's a little bit undersized for an outside corner, but I think he's my number 2 corner overall in the entire class. And then a guy that I think NFL teams are going to like because of his size, speed combo is Afiatu Melifonwu. He's like 6'3", runs fast, plays fast. I think he could be a guy that NFL teams bump up their board a little bit just on measurables.
Eric, who do you think sneaking into the first round?
Yeah, it's totally stole mine. Is Asante Samuel Jr. No, I mean, we need to talk before these things next time. It's all good, man. But no, I think let's say great minds think alike. But so I think you had said it. He projects more as a slot corner. He did play mostly on the perimeter, and at Florida State, I believe. But anyways, like dime is the base defense now for NFL. Like you're going to have slot corners. So why not take probably the best slot corner in the draft? Also, I mean, he's got the pedigree for it, right? His dad was 4, 5, 6-time Pro Bowler. I imagine he's going to do really well in the interview process, and I think that's going to be more important than ever now that they, you know what I'm saying? So like they can't get together and really talk to these kids. So this right here, and I mean, not to say he's been bred for that purpose, but at the same time, being around his dad and the family and everything like that, I think he has a leg up on some of these guys. We actually have a few defensive backs that are like second generation basically this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, Asante Samuel Jr. for me.
Okay, so I'm just like throwing this out there because Urban Meyer to me is like the college version of Sean Payton. Like they both know they're the smartest guy in the room and they know that they can do whatever they want. Would it be unthinkable that he does not draft Trevor Lawrence? That he picks up, say, if he can get Deshaun Watson or somebody a caliber in free agency, that he does not draft Trevor Lawrence? Is that unthinkable?
I think the only way that happens is if they somehow wound up with Deshaun Watson instead. I can't imagine an NFL front office allowing him to not draft Lawrence under any circumstance if he doesn't have another better option.
Don't say that too loud. The Justin Fields crowd on Twitter is going to just be like,
oh, they already think I hate Ohio State, so they're probably already yelling at me for something.
I think that it is unconscionable. That front office should be fired immediately. But unless, obviously, if they got a haul for it, well, I guess you can't really get a haul for it if you get Deshaun Watson too. Depends on what you'd have to give up. But Deshaun Watson has this giant contract versus Trevor Lawrence, who is, I guess what I've heard, at least the best quarterback since Andrew Luck coming out, and on a rookie deal. Rookie deals, man, those are super, super valuable things when team building. So,
okay, so Jacksonville has the most money right now to spend on salary cap. Like they're just sitting pretty salary cap and draft wise. I can just see Urban Meyer going, I can take whoever I want and make them really good. So both of you are steadfastly behind Trevor Lawrence being the best quarterback, regardless of what the Justin crowd says, and your hate of Ohio State fans.
Yes, yeah, they're already mad at me.
Yeah, I live a lot further away from them than you do, though, so I'll be all right.
Yeah, I live right in the that's like half my family, and
you better build a bunker or something once.
I'm gonna safe room.
Sweet, there we go. Perfect.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to the draft again. And Vance, who are the first 3 picks that you think Cincinnati should make in the draft?
I've been back and forth on this. People who follow me have seen me tout Kyle Pitts and Jalen Waddle both as guys that I might take even over Sewell if he is there. So, and that's partly because, as we talked about earlier, the tackle class is very deep. So I feel like there's a decent, at least, chance that the value for, say, Waddle and a Samuel Cosme, maybe early in round 2, is better than Sewell and whatever receiver is left in round 2. So I'm probably different from every other Bengals fan, and they'll be mad at me again because they're obsessed with Penei Sewell. But I will say Waddle or Pitts might be my 2 favorites in round 1. And then if that's the case, you take a tackle in round 2, a Samuel Cosme, a Alex Leatherwood maybe that drops down a little bit, maybe another tackle that falls, or even guard, somebody like the USC kid, Vera Tucker, would all be nice round 2 picks. And then round 3, I think the target either way that you do the first 2, if it were me, is going to be an edge guy. It's a pretty deep day 2 edge class, and I think you can get somebody like a Patrick Jones or a Carlos Basham, maybe a I'm blanking on the other names. Perkins from Oklahoma. Some of those guys that kind of drop into the early part of round 3 and take them there.
So as far as so you're prioritizing the needs: offensive line, edge, DT. Is that what you did?
Offensive line, receiver, or tight end, weapon. I guess it depends on how you view Kyle Pitts. Some people think he's just a receiver, and edge.
You think you guys need more receivers? So
I think they need some fast receivers. They have a lot of very good short range, not really deep threat guys. T. Higgins, who I absolutely love. I predicted he would be the pick last year, and was one of the guys that I hoped they would pick early, and they did. I think he's fantastic. If you saw my tweet the other night, he is my number 1 receiver already on my Madden franchise that I'm playing. He has almost 80 catches and like 10 touchdowns. So I'm a huge T. Higgins fan, but he's not really a deep threat at this point in his career. Auden Tate is a contested catch, third down receiver type of guy. Tyler Boyd is not really a deep guy. He's a fantastic slot receiver, underrated really around the league, but they don't really have anybody that takes the top off the defense at this point. So if you were to add Jalen Waddle, suddenly that opens up so much underneath, because now safeties have to play back and they can't just load the box with 8 guys and wait on Joe Mixon or short passes.
Okay. And for you, Eric, what do you have first 3 picks?
This comment is cracking me up. Sorry, Bobby Boucher in the first round. But, anyways, Dallas' defense was terrible last year. So they were 3rd in passing touchdowns, they gave up the 3rd most. Rushing yards, 2nd most. Rushing touchdowns, 6th most. Points against, 5th most. It's not great, Bob. It's really not great at all. So I'm actually cool if they just do like the Carolina Panthers did last year. All 7 picks, all defense. I'm good with that. But just a couple of folks for 10 here in the first round. Caleb Farley from VT. He allowed a passer rate of 26.8 in 2019. Obviously, he opted out of 2020. But he's a physical freak of nature. Like, he's one of those guys that would have tested out of the gym at the combine, in my opinion. Patrick Surtain, of course. Let's get him back. Get him with his boy Trevon Diggs in Dallas. They're 2 Alabama corners. My pipe dream is kind of Kyle Pitts, to be honest with you. So I'd appreciate if the Bengals don't take him there. And then I guess the last resort for me would be like Rashawn Slater or Christian Darrisaw. We do need a little bit of sorry, my alarm's going off my phone. We do need a little bit of help on the offensive line because we are getting a little old there. As far as round 2 goes, obviously, like Vance had said, this is all dependent on who you get in the first round. Let's say, for me, it's still defense, so I'm cool with that. Richie Grant, safety, Central Florida, he'd be perfect in that Dan Quinn cover 3, the high safety or the free safety role because they play just one. Man, I've seen him slip into the 3rd in some mocks, so I would be ecstatic to get him in the 3rd. Maybe we can have another draft like we did last year where we kept getting players to fall to us. Christian Barmore, I think we talked about him a little bit earlier. Oh, man, we need 1 or a 3 technique or something to help us stop.
He's a monster. If he goes to round 2, then I'll be pretty surprised, but he's an absolute monster.
It would be like when we got CD Lamb. I like cracked it. It was like Stone Cold, man. Smashed the beers and no. But they comped him to. I've seen him comp to Gerald McCoy, who we signed in the offseason. I think he ruptured his quad or something. So we need somebody to be in there and just eat up the gaps and help let our linebackers get there to tackle. Aileen Mcneil, I don't know much about him. I like his body type. I like his body size. He looks like a huge son of a gun. So I'd be cool with him. That's a defensive tackle. Then as far as round 3 goes, I have 2 corners, Eric Stokes from Georgia, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, Shakira Brown from Michigan State. So Stokes is a state champion track athlete. He won like 2 titles in the 100-meter, 200-meter.
Good ball skills, too.
Oh, man, he's fast. So in Shakira Brown, I just saw swag. That's what everybody kept saying about him. He just got swag like out the wazoo. But he's really good. He's got 7 interceptions on 79 career targets. So he's a playmaker. He's nasty. And then Cameron Sample. I just said defensive line. He's from Tulane. He was a Senior Bowl defensive MVP. He has versatility along the defensive line, much like Tyrone Crawford did for us for so many, I think 9 years or so. He's 32. He's a undrafted or a unrestricted free agent for us. So I would love to scoop him up in maybe the 3rd or 4th round there. So all defense for me, except for Kyle Pitts.
Okay, so let's take away the prospect of Dak Prescott. Who is your Eric? Who is your free agent wish, not including Dak? Let's say you guys already signed Dak.
Goodness. Maybe a Justin Simmons from Denver. He's been a heck of a good safety over the past 4 or 5 years that he's been in the league. I'd love to get him. I think we could probably get some. There's a pretty solid safety class out there actually this year, which is strange because I haven't seen one like that in a while. But I would say Justin Simmons, or I don't know, maybe like I would love to have Chris Godwin, but I don't think we need any more help in the running or the wide receiving core there. I don't want to take snaps away from CD Lamb. He runs pretty much exclusively out of the slot, and that's same as Chris Godwin. So,
Vansu for Cincinnati would be your free agent.
I don't have a list in front of me. I guess if I was going to address in free agency besides Joe Tooney, I will make sure I get that out there for the Bengals fans. And to be honest, that would be a good signing. Obviously, the guard play is what got Joe Burrow injured last year. Michael Jordan literally body slammed the defensive back on his knee, or the defensive lineman rather on his knee. Other than Tooney, maybe somebody like Kenny Golladay that would take the need for receiver out of the draft plans. They wouldn't have to worry about that early, and he can go deep. Has definitely an outside receiver that can take over for AJ Green and kind of play that role. Makes big plays, big guy, strong hands. So somebody like that would probably be. Besides Tony, be the best guy.
Sticking with free agency, who are you okay? Who are you okay with losing in free agency for the Bengals?
This is kind of an odd year, or maybe not odd, it's not the right word, but this is kind of a transitional year, maybe is a good way to put it, for the Bengals, because they're going to have to really make some tough cuts. As far as their actual free agents, I think maybe Mackenzie Alexander is probably one that played pretty well for the Bengals in the slot this year, but is replaceable either with a draft pick or a free agent signing. I know there's some good corners in the free agent market. As far as guys that aren't free agents but they may make into free agents, one of the tough ones besides Geno Atkins, who's been around forever and is just at this point his value is not meeting the production. Somebody like Giovanni Bernard, who I know fans absolutely adore, but they're just paying too much money to the running back position right now. I'm firmly on team never pay running backs. They're paying too, so one of them's got to go, and Gio unfortunately is that dude.
So who's going to help me out when Joe Mixon breaks my heart about getting injured again and ruining my fantasy team? There's no Gio. Who is it?
They probably the Williams kid from Texas A&M, and his first name is completely escaping
I know
my brain.
I can't remember me. Yeah.
Would probably be the most likely second in command there.
Eric, who are you okay with the Dallas losing in free agency?
We literally have 2 corners that are signed right now. Terrible Anthony Brown. I hate him so much. He's so bad. And then Trevon Diggs, who I love and I think has a great career ahead of him. I'm cool with all 5 of them leaving. Just get out of my life. No, I do really like Chidobe Awuzie. I think he's actually been really good. He's just been that kid. I see him. He's in their hip pocket all the time, and the quarterback or the receiver just makes an incredible play. So I really do like Chidobe Awuzie. I feel like he might be trying to get a little too much money, so he might not deserve that much. But yeah, I'm good with that. I'd like to get some fresh blood in it. I wouldn't mind getting Mr. William Jackson. I wouldn't mind signing him.
That is, I definitely want to keep it. William Jackson has a weird relationship with Bengals fans because they see the occasional big play that he may give up, but they don't credit him for the other 10 plays per game that he makes. So you see a lot of William Jackson needs to go, and I'm so confused by those comments that it's baffling. Awuzie is a guy that I've seen tied to Cincinnati, by the way. A lot of fans are like, let's go get him if we don't sign Jackson.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, he's a big dude. He's super, super athletic. I just think he's been put in bad situations, honestly. And like I said, he's just been unlucky, if you will. But, yeah.
All right, going into fantasy realm, the fantasy football realm, Vance, name one player on the Bengals and one on the Cowboys that you are predicting to have a good fantasy 2021 year, that you think will have a good fantasy 2021 year.
I'm going to say Joe Mixon is going to bounce back and be one of the better running backs. They have changed offensive line coach who brings a more Mixon-friendly blocking scheme with him. He, in theory, stays healthy this year, and with Burrow there and hopefully with more help, maybe they can back the safeties up out of the box a little bit more this year than they have in the past, and that should open things up for Mixon. So I'll go with Mixon.
Anyone, the Cowboys, do you think is going to have a good year for fantasy purposes? Vance.
Oh, me. Wow. I will say he mentioned CeeDee Lamb earlier. And this is more of a shot in the dark because I really, like I said, I'm not a Cowboys fan, so I don't watch them often. But I will take a shot and say CeeDee Lamb. Although I am a huge fan of Michael Gallup. He was one of my favorite receivers the year he got drafted. I would have probably let Amari Cooper walk and went with Gallup, and then now CeeDee Lamb if they had gone that route.
Eric, who you got for fantasy?
First off, never Joe Mixon. Never again. No, I'm just playing. Hey, I'm all about the value. If he drops to like the end of the second, I might grab him. No, I'd say T. Higgins. I really, really liked his game. I wasn't super high on him coming out of college, but Lord have mercy, he really. But him and it seems like him and Burrow definitely have some sort of chemistry, a connection, if you will.
Sure.
So I do like him. He's big. He's a big dude. Let Tyler Boyd work between the 20s. Give me them red zone targets. That's what I'll take for T. Higgins. And as far as Dallas goes, I don't care. I'm going to say it. Zeke, feed him the ball. So in the first 5 games when Dak was healthy, right, Zeke was on pace to be the running back 2 on the year. He was on pace for 1,165 rushing yards, 16 rushing touchdowns, 102 targets, 77 receptions, 554 receiving yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. So I'm not. He's probably not going to do that. He's not going to score 16 rushing touchdowns, right? But I mean, I've heard people. I've seen rankings actually, especially in Dynasty. Zeke's down like 18. I'm like, y'all tripping? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. He had one mediocre year. He's the king of consistency. So I'll take Zeke all day long. So, and I also have him on literally every single one of us. Hashtag selfish. Yep, that's my boy from my dynasty league. Actually, we say that stuff like this are like hashtag selfish prediction. But yeah, I love Zeke. I love him a lot. And then I think that was it. That's all mine. I just enjoy being here.
So, who do you think is going to bust on the Cowboys for fantasy purposes? Like he could have a really good real year, but suck at fantasy.
I love CeeDee Lamb. I really, really do. But I've seen the hype is kind of getting out of control for him. I think I saw his ADP or something. I would look it up, but I would take to look. But like it's in the 20s or something like that. I'm like, I don't know. But we'll see. If Dak is back, he was actually really good in PPR. PPR is a stupid format, just so y'all know. It doesn't make any sense at all. But anyways, I do think CeeDee Lamb might not bust per se, but not return appropriate value.
And for the Bengals, Vance, who do you think is a fantasy? Will be a fantasy bust?
I'm going to say Tyler Boyd, just because I don't know that he brings a lot of touchdown value. He's very valuable. You mentioned between the 20s, makes a lot of catches, makes a lot of third down catches that are valuable on the field, converts a lot of first downs. But I don't know that he'll be their primary red zone target. They're going to have Higgins back, who has great connection with Joe Burrow. You're absolutely right. And they have Auden Tate, who is a contested catch monster in the red zone. So I think Boyd's touchdowns may be a little limited.
Plus, they'll have Kyle Pitts too, right? So
plus Kyle Pitts and maybe Jalen Waddle. That's why I get both of them.
Oh, just screw it. Let's do it.
What do you think of your coach, Vance?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I was not a fan last year. I think that primarily stems from his attachment to Jim Turner in a lot of ways. Jim Turner is a terrible offensive line coach, and I think he's got another job at some small school somewhere, and I feel sorry for that team. But if you look back at his record, everywhere he's been, their offensive lines have been awful. Like they've not been good lines in Miami, not even counting the bullying stuff that went on there at that time. So he was attached to Turner, I think, a little too much. Didn't really get a fair shake his first year because he was late getting hired and therefore missed out on almost everybody that he actually wanted to hire on the defensive coordinator position, especially. So I'm willing to be optimistic and give him another year and be open-minded, but he definitely has to show something this year or I'm out completely.
And what do you think of McCarthy for Dallas?
I'm not going to judge him after 1 year, one COVID year. No preseason, no mini. Nothing. No, a lot was changing. What's that? I'm sorry.
That was every team. Every team had
exactly, but not every team changed head coaches either, and defensive coordinators. And we did keep Kellen Moore, which I am super stoked about that. But I'm not judging him after that. He has tenure. I definitely thought he did some some good and bad things, which is to be expected of anyone. But no, I'm good with him for now. We'll see.
For now. Yeah. All right. Okay. You guys are just like way too agreeable with like so nice. Both of you are just like the nicest people in the world right now. Let's go back.
Not the impression I wanted to make at all.
Oh, you didn't want to be nice?
I'm just playing.
So let's go back to the draft. And Trevor Lawrence going number one. How many quarterbacks do you see going in the first round, Vance?
It looks honestly like maybe 5. There's a lot of Mac Jones talk as a maybe top 10 pick. In that case, maybe Trey Lance is the odd man out and falls around 2. But I think that if at worst, if he drops, somebody would trade back up into round 1 to pick him. So I think 5.
So Mac Jones, the talk started after the Senior Bowl? Like I didn't hear much Mac Jones talk during this season.
It kind of time mid-season, he had a string of games and he had still Jalen Waddle on the team, so he was hitting a lot of deep passes and the hype kind of built up. And then Waddle got hurt, and so Alabama became more of a run it, short pass, find wherever Smith happens to be at, and prosper kind of team. and so it died down some. But recently, and even today, I don't remember where I saw it at. So it was one of the bigger sites that there's talk of him inside the top 10, maybe even in the top 8.
Okay, so that means we're assuming that 5 teams need a starting quarterback, right?
If that would presume mostly, yeah. I mean, you have odd things like Green Bay last year, who had no need for a quarterback and picked one anyway. But in theory, yes, 5 teams would need a quarterback.
Okay, how many, Eric? How many do you see? Do you see agree? 5, Mac Jones being the 5th.
Yes, I can't believe we're agreeing again. No, yeah, for sure, I really do, because like you said, Mac Jones hype is getting wild. The Patriots at 15, I believe, have been rumored to kind of want him a little bit. They need somebody to throw the ball to there as well. So, Lord knows what's going to happen there. But yeah, I think so. Trey Lance being could be more of a team that doesn't necessarily need a starter right now, but has a little bit of time to develop him over a year or two. Because that guy, talk about zip on the ball. Lord have mercy. He looks so strong when he throws it. Like, Jesus.
Are we talking Mac Jones?
No. Trey Lance.
Oh, okay.
Mac Jones looked like a wet noodle.
I never heard that. About Mac Jones. What?
Breaking news.
No, it's like, what is happening? Okay, wide receivers. You think this class is as deep as last year's class?
I do. Yeah. I think they're very top heavy. Obviously, the big 3: Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devante Smith. I'm hard pressed to say who's 4 out of those. Who's number 4 out of those 3. But yeah, I think this is a very, very deep class for sure. And I think it does, like we had alluded to earlier, it pushes some of those guys down into this. You're going to get some teams are going to get incredible value in the 2nd, 3rd round out of this wide receiver class for sure.
Okay, so here's my question for both of you. There's going to be no combine, and didn't Chase opt out? Chase opted out this year, right?
Chase opted out.
He did,
correct.
Yes.
These players that are phenomenal are predicted to be phenomenal, but opted out, so there's no recent film on them. Neither of you think what?
That's
Neither
correct.
of you think the non-combine is going to hurt that? Like
I don't think so with those top guys. Like I think and I've watched all 3 of the 3 that are coming to mind instantly, with that being Sewell from Oregon,
right.
Chase from LSU, and Farley from Virginia Tech for the cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
And their 2019 tape is stellar for all 3 of those guys. They're all have been widely considered to be top 10, top 15 picks all along. So I don't think that the opt-out year is going to really hurt those. There are some guys that opted out that aren't as highly projected. Maybe they get scrutinized a little bit more than those top tier guys. But I don't think it'll hurt a whole lot. It's just a little more work for the teams.
Eric?
Yeah, agreed, 100%. I mean, if you look at somebody like Jamar Chase, for instance, Justin Jefferson came and broke records as a rookie. He was Jamar Chase started over him as a younger player at LSU. Justin Jefferson, that is. So, mm-hmm. I mean, I think the proof is in the pudding, like Vance said. I mean, you think about Sewell. Was he 19, I think? 18 or 19?
He's
19. He's a freak of nature. Like, was he 315, 320? But it's just so – he is the prototypical left tackle. If you were to build one in Madden, that's Penei Sewell. I can't believe you want to pass on him for Pitts, but yeah, I mean it could be a little bit of like Vance said, a little more scrutiny. But I think if you turn the tape on, you look at them now, you get a measure of kind of how they look and how they move during their pro days and whatnot. It won't be an issue.
The only caveat that would be is if one of them shows up out of shape or something. Then that would be obviously a difference maker. But otherwise, if they come in looking same weights and things that they had in 19, then there's no reason I would knock them for that.
We're not going to come in on pro day, right? Would come in where? On pro day? Or
if they were to show up pro day 20 pounds heavier, let's say for Chase especially, being that he's or Farley, they're skill guys that rely on their speed. If they were to come in way heavier, or their muscle tone was all gone. If they had clearly not been working out over the past year that they were off, then that would be a red flag. But if they come in shape, then I'm going to assume that they can play how they did in 2019.
Okay, so Vance, you are our draft guy. You're the draft guru. Give me the top 5 draft picks for 2021.
As they will be picked, or just my top 5 guys?
Just your top 5 guys.
My top 5 guys are Lawrence, Sewell, Pitts, Waddle, and I don't remember who my 5th guy was. I just tweeted this out the other day. Najee Harris is a top 10 guy for me. I'd like him a lot. I don't think he was 5. Maybe Farley was 5. He's up there pretty high. But I know the top 4 were my top 4 for sure.
And how do you think the top 5 picks will go?
I'm going to say Lawrence. I think the Jets will take Wilson. I think the tide is shifting, even though I have Fields graded a little higher. I think the Mahomes comparisons for Wilson and his ability to throw off platform, people are reading. They're looking for the next Patrick Mahomes, basically, and Wilson is a little closer to that if you're comparing play styles than Justin Fields is. So I'm going to say Wilson to the Jets. The 3rd pick is Miami. Miami is an interesting pick because they will either break Bengals fans' hearts and go with the offensive lineman, or they're going to probably take one of the receivers, and I don't have any feel for which one it might be. I would assume Chase, but it could be Smith as well, or Waddle, any of the 3. 4 is Atlanta. I would like to think Atlanta might take Fields because Matt Ryan is not younger, and they're very on the edge of a rebuild there. So if you get your quarterback, maybe you capitalize on Julio Jones still being in top form before he goes, on the downside of his career. And then Bengals will take Sewell, in my opinion, if he's there. If he's gone, then I'm going to say whichever receiver is left of Waddle, Smith, or Chase. Chase would be most likely because of the LSU connection. But if he's gone, then we'll say Waddle.
Okay, and I see Miami trading down, actually, because they really do.
Also possible. That's not counting any trade downs, and there's a pretty good chance that 1 or 2 may happen. The Bengals would probably love to trade down, just to be honest.
Do you think the Bengals
love to trade down?
You think the Bengals want to trade down?
I think they. Let me word it like this. I know Bengals fans want to trade down, or would like to, especially if Sewell is gone. The Bengals team, I don't know. There's been a little bit of a shift in the front office because Mike Brown has taken more of a step back. Mike Brown was not a trade down kind of guy for the most part, especially when he had a high pick. But his daughter and son-in-law are much more involved now, so maybe there's a little bit of a shift in philosophy on that. If a team's looking for a quarterback in the top 5, Fields or Wilson, in theory, then I think they should consider a trade down, and then you're still probably going to get one of the 3 receivers, a very good offensive lineman in Slater or Darrisaw from the ACC, and or Pitts possibly when it's a little bit more value, so to speak, for tight end.
Okay, and Eric, I know that this wasn't a question that I presented. So, and who are your top 5?
Top 5, just in the draft.
In the draft, yeah, not necessarily.
No. So I'm a big proponent of was it positional value, right? So quarterbacks are going to be higher for me. Just be I got to say Lawrence. I'm counting on my hand here. Lawrence, Fields, so I can keep myself together. Sewell. I'm going to say Chase, just because God, he was so good at such a young age. I love the breakout age thing. I know not everybody agrees with that, but I don't know. It gets me going. So that's 4 right there. I don't know. Maybe Zach Wilson again, or potentially a Caleb Farley, or actually Micah Parsons. That guy is a freak of nature. Talk about being built in Madden. Like, goodness. It's like 235, 240, massive, fast, strong, great instincts. Yeah, I really like Micah Parsons. So, yeah.
Pass rush upside as well. He can rush the passer and drop into coverage and play the run. He really does everything. Questions are, and somebody mentioned it. I saw the comment a second ago about character concerns for Zach Wilson. That would also be there it is, and Micah Parsons as well has some potential character things in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was your boy Eric Clint Moore.
I'll have a talk with him, see what he's talking about.
The French character questions on Zach Wilson. All right, gentlemen, I appreciate you both very much. Vance, we will give you the first opportunity to dialogue on whatever you want. Wait, dialogue is two people. To pontificate on
monologue.
Monologue, thank you. What movie is that from?
I have no idea.
Oh, The Rock does okay, so I'm sorry. It's Get Shorty 2 or whatever. I'm sorry, go ahead. My bad.
Just going back to the Bengals, I think this is this may be the biggest offseason in Bengals history, at least as long of memory as I have. They are working for Joe Burrow. We talked about rookie deals. He's through his first year of that. They have a window that they can capitalize on. They have talent on the team. Signing Carl Lawson back especially is huge. There's some rumors that maybe he's not in the plans. It's absolutely as important a signing as there is to make, in my opinion, is to get Lawson back. He was absolutely fabulous. They have Jonah Williams. They have a top 5 pick. They have Mixon, whether you think they should have paid him or not. They have Tyler Boyd. They have T. Higgins. They're going to be able to add at least enough, even if they don't draft Jalen Waddle or Chase, they're going to be able to get at least a good day 2 receiver. They have some young linebackers. They have talented cornerbacks. Jesse Bates is maybe the best safety in the league. They have talent all over the roster. I don't want to hear about Minkah Fitzpatrick. They have so much talent on the team. They did really well with last year's draft class. They got starters and contributors all throughout the entire draft. If they can have another good draft class and they use free agency very well, they're going to get guys healthy. DJ Reader missed a large chunk of last year. Trey Waynes missed all of last year. Jonah Williams missed a bunch of last year. Burrow got hurt. I think this offseason is absolutely huge in terms of retaining fans. They're doing some things with a potential ring of honor that may be finally happening in Cincinnati. They're getting new uniforms. There's so much going on, and they have such a chance to make a big difference with the fan base. And if they let Carl Lawson walk, they don't beef up the offensive line appropriately, they're going to blow it. And by the end of next year, if they only win 4 or 5 games, they're going to lose a large portion of the fan base. And I don't want to see that happen.
Yeah, I mean, they have the potential to. They're just that North is a rough. It's a rough division, actually, defensive wise. It is. So, but they have the potential. I like that. I like that rant. Even as a Steelers fan, I'm okay with it. Except for Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Jesse Bates was robbed, and you know it.
Except for the Minkah Fitzpatrick shade. Okay, Eric, what about you?
All right. So I'm a fantasy football guy. We're going to talk about a little fantasy football. It's not to do with Dallas. It's just something's been weighing on my mind. All right. So it was a spirited talk on Twitter with somebody. He was saying that J.K. Dobbins was better than Cam Akers. Not so fast, my friends. Cam Akers is better than every running back from the 2020 and 2021 class for fantasy purposes now.
Okay.
Let me tell you why. So his last 6 games, when he actually got the lion's share of the touches and the snaps percentage and all that stuff, 6 games now, 132 carries and 14 targets. So that's 24.3 opportunities per game. So volume, right? That's what we look for as fantasy football folks. So he actually equaled 118 yards from scrimmage. That's pretty good. That's not bad. We're not going to talk about his touchdowns because he was not used on the goal line very much, but I'm hoping that changes this year. So we'll look at a couple other running backs from 2020 or 2021. Jonathan Taylor, he was pretty much a starter from week 1 because Marlon Mack tore his Achilles. So he saw 18.1 opportunities per game. But here's the problem. He is 97.9 yards from scrimmage. 22% of his rushing yards came from one game against Jacksonville in week 17. Get out of here with that garbage. I don't want to hear it. I love Jonathan Taylor. Don't get me wrong. But he's no Cam Akers now. J.K. Dobbins, my favorite. So I'm going to say from week 7 through the playoffs because he was competing with Mark Ingram kind of the first 6 weeks of the season. So when he became the lead back, quote unquote, 13.1 opportunities per game, 75.2 yards from scrimmage. I don't want to hear nothing else about Mark Ingram stealing his touches. I don't want to hear it. Mark Ingram was hurt a little bit. He actually was a healthy scratch a few games. But after Dobbins took over the backfield in weeks 10 through 14, when him and Mark Ingram shared the backfield, Ingers added 14% of the offensive snaps. Ingram didn't steal anything from him. He was super productive, sure. However, he was good for fantasy because he had 8 touchdowns in his last 8 games of the season. J.K. Dobbins, that is. Okay. You're not going to put all of your chips in with touchdowns. We know that's not as sticky as it should be. You were looking for volume. Once again, 13.1 opportunities per game. Cam Akers had 11 more opportunities. I don't want to hear that. Antonio Gibson, he was awesome. Loved him. He was on my fantasy team. I drafted him like 6th round. Super happy with that. But he also had 11 touchdowns. Is that Washington football team that good? Obviously, the defense is, but I don't know if he's going to have that many opportunities again. And also, I just want to say this. It was bad enough on Thanksgiving. I can't be with my friends and family. I got to watch him run for 3 touchdowns against Dallas. How dare you, sir? Hurt my feelings. Ruined my holiday is what it did. And then last thing I got for it, just for dynasty purposes, Cam Akers is younger than everyone in the 2021 class except for Javonte Williams. And is this Chuba Hubbard or Chubba Hubbard? I don't know how to pronounce his actual first name.
I say it Chuba, but I could be wrong.
I think it is. But anyways, he's actually almost a year and a half younger than Najee Harris and Travis Etienne. That's all I got to say about Cam Akers. I love him. His situation also just improved dramatically with Matt Stafford versus that terrible, the third best quarterback from the 2016 draft class, Jared Goff. And then I don't want to hear about Michael Brown. He's 28. He's a free agent. Darrell Henderson can't lace Cam Akers' cleats. I don't want to hear about it. Cam Akers is the man. He's going to be the man. I sure hope so. I just traded like a haul for him in Dynasty. So this is me trying to convince myself that I did the right thing, basically.
So we are going with hashtag.
If you paid attention to me last year, you know that I was a huge Cam Akers fan. He had a top, maybe 25 grade last year for me. I absolutely loved him coming out.
I wish I did because I didn't like him coming out, actually. I was like, he's so productive. This is what I'm doing. I'm trying to make up for that mistake now, basically, by just going, I want to be the Cam Akers, like, after the fact, I want to be the truther, So I just want to take credit for something I wasn't actually involved in at all.
Right. We won't tell anyone. Vance, real quick, James G wants to know what happens with the Bengals running back depth.
If Gio is not there, then it's going to be Mixon, obviously, is going to be clear-cut number 1. They're going to use Samaje Perine. If he's back, I off the top of my head, I don't know if he's a free agent or not. They like him a lot. He played very well last year. Even broke off a couple of nice long runs. I think he had the longest run of the year for Cincinnati, as a matter of fact. But they'll use him a lot in short yards, goal line situations. He's going to get a lot of touchdowns, probably not a ton of yards. And then the Williams kid, who I am so sorry, I cannot remember what his first name is, is going to – yeah, there you go. He's going to be their default guy who comes in to spell Mixon for most of the field.
All right, thanks. So, gentlemen, that is the show for today. I appreciate both of you. Vance, once again, let people know where they can find you and about your new podcast with your brother that we can all listen on.
Vance Meek on Twitter. It's really simple one. I'm not creative in that way, so my name is my Twitter handle. Luckily, nobody had taken it. Podcast is going to be NFL Next Podcast. We are hoping to get it going within the next couple of weeks. It's basically just going to be me and my brother who don't agree on anything, arguing over everything. So keep an eye out for that.
And especially if you guys are interested in the draft, to look Vance up. Eric, you're podcast? Where can people find you?
That I don't know. So that's the problem with having these friends that I have. Like they're not consistent on anything, and I hope they're watching this right now, so they're getting berated live. Well, honestly, we're trying to do Saturdays for the EJC NFL pod, just talk about all stuff. We actually have this cool, almost like Monopoly-based game where we're going to work with different team salary caps in the free agent situation. So I'm really excited for that. Jason, please hurry up with that. And then as far as the Badman's pod goes, I actually have a couple of guests lined up for the next couple of weeks. So we're going to be trying to do Wednesday nights at 7:30 Eastern on that. And I just had an article drop for goingfor2.com talking about 5 individual defensive players that quote unquote broke out in 2020 and whether we can consider, if that's going to continue or not.
Okay, on your Wednesday, who's your guest and what's the Wednesday pod address?
Oh, I don't have him confirmed yet. Sorry.
No, never mind. It's a non-confirmed great guest, though. You're gonna love them. So listen to Eric on Wednesday night. Listen to Vance and his brother argue incessantly on their podcast. We appreciate you both for being here. I appreciate everyone who listened. And TV, thank you very much. That's my sister. So, of course, she appreciates me. You guys have a really good night. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, please.
We will see you next time.